What's the good word, y'all? It's your boy DKB here. I'm back. Apologies for the delay in videos. I was dealing with some eye issues, but the worst seems to be behind us. So, catching back up on all the fun and madness from this week. Mecole Hardman Jr., the main story for the New York Jets, a guy that we outed before the Week 8 trade deadline hit. And yet, somehow, not only is he causing a bunch of ruckus in Florham Park, but he may also end up benefiting the Jets quite a bit. So for those that have been living under a rock or have been suffering with something like myself, here's essentially some of the main, storylines with Mecole Hardman. He was on the Pivot podcast. He had some comments, and we've been hearing stuff leading up to the Super Bowl and after from Mecole Hardman about his tenure with the Jets, but he seemed to have leaked some pretty strong feelings and some situations the NFL will need to look into, right? To start things off, you have the tampering situation, right? And there's technically kind of two forms here. The first one that he mentioned on the Pivot was that after he pretty much checked out on the New York Jets for the season, he had some texts and or calls with Patrick Mahomes and general manager Von Leach, I think it was, over there with the Chiefs. And ultimately, that's kind of what led to him being traded, right? You do see, it's pretty rare of a situation where you see a team let a free agent go. He gets signed by a new team, even if it is on a one-year deal or a prove-it type situation, just for him to ultimately end up getting released and or traded anyways, and then going back to the team that let them go, right? Mecole Hardman, for as much as the help the wide receiver unit needed for the Chiefs, he wasn't going to be an absolute fix or solution, right? The biggest piece there was that he had chemistry with Patrick Mahomes, but when you look at his season, yes, he had the Super Bowl winning catch, but he didn't do anything to really be an impactful player once he got traded back to the Chiefs. So it is interesting, I guess, from that perspective of things, right? The part that benefits us, obviously, is going to be, and we had Joe Douglas's thoughts on this during the Combine, that these resonated with the New York Jets. They're going to be looking for compensation here, right? Obviously, the NFL is pretty ferocious when it comes to tampering claims. I think about the recent one between the Colts and the Commanders when it came to the Commanders potentially reaching out to Andrew Luck to try to get him out of retirement. I believe the way he retired, and maybe something with the contract, gives the Colts the first rights to try to coax him out, or, basically he is under contract with the Colts in some way, however that works out. And so the Commanders would definitely be overstepping. In this case, this is a lot more cut and dry. He's still rostered and contracted to the New York Jets. There shouldn't have been any communication between the two, right? And so it is what it is, right? I love it. Ultimately, we know that the New York Jets season was going to be in the dumps once Aaron Rodgers got hurt. We had our moments. We seen Zach Wilson ball out in certain games. And so we did have some hope return. But ultimately, it didn't feel like we were really going to get to where we thought we can get with Aaron Rodgers. It's quite a leap in talent, skill, and leadership between those two guys. So Mecole Hardman being dumb here in this situation, I kind of equate it to guys that go on Vlad TV and, they end up snitching on themselves, right? This is essentially what Mecole Hardman did. Not only did he help out his Chiefs, he shot them in the foot at the same time, right? It's not so hard to get to a Super Bowl, even harder to repeat it back-to-back Super Bowls. But then you think about it, it's still going to take quite a bit for the Chiefs to try to build that offense back up. And you have Mecole Hardman here threatening to get draft picks taken away from them. To add to the fun, you have the drama that came up where, and I guess you can call this the secondary form of tampering, where I believe it was Sauce Gardner and Kenny Yeboah, one of our tight ends, pretty much insinuated that Mecole Hardman leaked our offensive game plans to not only the Chiefs, but he also did the same thing to the Eagles in kind of a fit, right? This one didn't have as much validity to me, right? The Chiefs game is obviously one most people will look to and point out that was Zach Wilson's best game of the season. The Eagles game, we pulled out a major upset there as well, not only with some of the defensive struggles, but again, Zach Wilson having a solid enough game for us to even be able to pull it out there at the end. But I don't think that necessarily excludes everything, right? That doesn't mean that the New York Jets didn't overcome things just because we consider the team to be bad or porous in talent and or coaching, leadership, game planning, etc. We've shown that we can go out there and hang with some of the best teams in the NFL, right? So this doesn't, it's on both sides of the spectrum. I think there's arguments that need to be heard objectively. And again, this is a situation that, the NFL is not going to take this lightly, right? You think about Deflategate. You think about, the Patriots taping other teams' practices and such. There's going to be other violations across the NFL for different things that you see. But in both of these cases, these could return some kind of compensation to the Jets. Now, draft picks, I think, would be the preferred choice here. That doesn't have to be the case according to the NFL. Teams who players was tampered with are permitted to seek, are permitted to seek compensation, which include draft picks, financial compensation, or other reparations as determined by the NFL, right? So it's not that the Jets will have a choice per se. And going back to the it wasn't the Colts and Commanders situation, but you think about the Dolphins and the Tom Brady, Sean Payton situation, right? They got hit, I think, with they got their first round pick and I think a third removed, and I think they got a heavy fine. This wouldn't be that drastic, but it would be beneficial to us if not only the Chiefs got docked for that in both instances, but also if we got rewarded with those picks. You add that along with the compensatory picks we're expected to get, things could look that much better for the Jets in terms of being able to move up and maneuver some pieces heading into day two. Maybe it makes a trade down situation a little bit more favorable. And then to put the icing on the cake, you have the Mecole Hardman versus Thomas Morstead beef, if you want to call it that, where Mecole Hardman basically was crapping over the Jets, calling us a bad franchise, a situation. He made it pretty clear he would never want to return to the Jets. Thomas Morstead ended up commenting back, or tweeting back, I should say, basically saying this is an ego issue for Mecole Hardman. Again, Super Bowl winning touchdown, by all means, celebrate your achievement there. But Morstead essentially said you lost your role that you were coming into, right? Obviously, we thought he was going to fit into the offensive game plan as a deep threat, but you lost your returning role as well to an undrafted wide receiver after you were guaranteed $4.5 million, whatever it is that we tried to offer him in free agency. So it's tough. It's tough. I can definitely see Morstead's point. When it comes to Mecole Hardman, there was a tweet or a comment he made that did make sense to me. No matter where you are at the totem pole, he was part of a Chiefs organization that now has been to the Super Bowl in 3 or 4 of the last 5 years. And so he is seeing what a successful franchise looks like, how it's ran, how they handle situations from top down when it comes to roster management, which is something we should take lessons from, right? That is probably another primary reason why we signed him, not just because of the returnability or the elite speed that he has, but also he's coming from that pedigree of a championship franchise in the Chiefs. So I'm not necessarily as super against Mecole Hardman as what I've seen a lot of other fans and or just general NFL people in this particular situation. I think there's a lot, as we've been seeing through various reports and rumors, et cetera, with this Jets franchise. Things weren't all the way right at all last year. So there, I'm taking everything with a grain of salt, but there's obviously a certain amount of truth to what the Jets are thinking and or saying from the players and coaching staff, front office view, as well as what Mecole Hardman is saying here. But ultimately, let me know what you guys think. I'm hoping here, obviously these investigations, I'm assuming, will be alerted to be official pretty soon, and hopefully we get a quick turnaround so that we get draft picks this year and don't necessarily have to wait until 2025. But let me know what you guys think about the whole situation, and I'll catch you again. Peace.